Wonderful to be here with all the friends. I'm attending very delightful sessions, Dawnbreaker Challenge, that remind me of all the heroic lives of the early Babis and the Baha'is. It happened that I was born in a village that one of the major events in a Babi history took place there. In the southern part of Iran, not far from Shiraz, there is a village called Naysan that is about 200 kilometers from Shiraz. It's very primitive, it's very backward. I spent my first 6-7 years of my life in that bloody village, and there is no road, no waterway, no electricity. Basically, when you see some movies that duplicate the life of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, when I look at him riding a donkey or his mother Maria, very much the town of Naysan remind me of that. We were lucky that a great scholar by the name Wahid was sent by the king of Iran, Muhammad Shah, to investigate the cause of the Bab in Shiraz. And this is the long history that friends should be familiar. And he accepted the cause of the Bab, and he began to travel extensively all over the country. And we should remember that he was one of the leading mullah of Iran at the time, from a very distinguished family. So he often was welcome in many places that he would arrive. And also in the village of Naysan, he had the house, and he had the wife, and he had some children. So I guess at some point he got tired of traveling so much and being all over, and often being forced out to leave because of his ideas and his beliefs. Right before coming to Naysan, he was in another town called Yazd, and he was forced out to leave that town. So in Naysan, he decided to make a stand. And even though the governor and the clergy and others, they were against him to stay there, but he refused to leave. My great-great-great-grandfather, a man by the name Mullah Abdul Hussein, was the mullah or the leading figure in town. You have to remember, in Islam, there are two groups of Muslims, especially in the Shia sect. There are either mujtahid, that means learned, which is only maybe 1% of the whole population, or you are muqallid, which means follower, which is 99% of people. So when the mujtahid, when the great mullah, let's say, become Babi, automatically almost his entire congregation, his entire membership of his mosque, they also become Babi. So acceptance of the Bab's cause through Wahid by my ancestor Mullah Abdul Hussein led the majority of the people in that village to become Babi. And I often think what a blessing it was that this happened, because if he would not come to Naysan, if all that bloody episode would not take place, most likely I would be still in that village, because my ancestors, they were all mullahs and imam al-jum'ah, and we had a good life, because as a leading mullah, you have a perfect, comfortable life. Once a week you go to the mosque on Friday and you do your thing. The rest of the time you live a very good life. So I would be in that village of Naysan. I may have 3-4 wives, bunch of children, lots of goats and lamb and land and all that. But by becoming Babi, my ancestor, and by the persecution of the Babis and later Baha'is, we were forced to leave our village. We were forced to eventually leave the country after 1979 revolution by Ayatollah Khomeini and others. I was 6-7 years old, and my father could not tolerate anymore the pressure and persecution. They burned his little pharmacy he had. They kidnapped him. They tortured him extensively. So at some point, he figured out enough is enough, and he decided to leave the village. The worst time of the year for the poor Babis and Baha'is is the month of Muharram, which is the month that on the 10th day of Muharram, which is called Ashura, 1,000 years ago, Imam Hussein was martyred. So even today, up to now, especially Shias, they go through a whole ritual of remembering that day. And at that time, the poor Baha'is were always subject to attack, martyrdom, and all that. I recall in one of those occasions, Ashura, we are in the top of our house, and we saw the mobs are coming after attending a mosque and listening to this presentation by the mullah. We run to close our door to our house and ask the other friend to come in, don't be in the streets. And we forgot about our dog, and this poor dog got stuck outside. And as the people were passing by, they stoned the dog to death. For many years, I had this screaming and crying of the dog in my head. Later on, when I made sure I get another dog to replace my affection that I had for that dog. Anyway, we went Nayriz. I'm trying to move on in my life. We left Nayriz, and after traveling to Shiraz and Isfahan and Tehran, we end up in a port city of Abadan. Abadan, compared with the other cities of Iran, is more cultured and more civilized. And the reason for it is that because there is one of the biggest oil refinery was built by British Petroleum Company in that place. You know, Iran is one of the big sources of energy and oil. And British Oil Company had a monopoly of the whole system. So they built this huge complex of refinery that they had. So they were hiring people left and right, but perhaps at least 100,000 people working for that company. So my father got a job there, and our life in Abadan was more subdued and more quiet because of the influence of American and British and Indian and all that they were working for the company. They were even more tolerant of the Baha'i faith. In the summertime, it happened because that particular city is right by the Persian Gulf, and it gets hot and humid. So we would travel with my mother and my brother and sister to different parts of the country. And one occasion, my dear aunt took me, wanted me to visit and see all the holy places that was significant for the Baha'is. We went all the way to Tabarsi, we went to Zanjan, we escaped. So Mazandaran, the birthplace of other figure in the faith at that time. I was very bright. No, I was a very smart boy. I was doing very good in school. And all of a sudden, I keep hearing about Einstein, about von Braun, missiles, this, that. And I keep hearing nuclear engineering. So I thought, okay, why don't I become a nuclear engineer? So I went to American Embassy in Tehran, and I only knew maybe 50 to 100 words of English language. And mostly the conversation I had with them, me, America, engineer, Einstein, this, somehow probably between this woman who knew some Persian and me with a few words in English, she realized what I want. I'm sure she laughed at me. But she showed me in some kind of a college directory, put her finger on two colleges, Columbia and Harvard. These two schools, they have this nuclear engineering program. I applied. She helped me. Soon, a rejection came from Columbia, and that was the end of it. But we couldn't believe it. Harvard University accepted Hussein Ahdieh to come to America. That was the biggest news for the entire family and the friends that, our favorite child is going to the new world and he's going to Harvard. Flew to Italy. Something cute happened when I was in Rome. The secretary of NSA of Iran was an American woman, Miss Sharp, that came, Guardian sent her there in early 40s, I think. She learned Persian. She was very dedicated. So eventually she became member of National Assembly of Iran, speak fluent Persian. And then eventually she became secretary of that assembly for a number of years. So she gave me on a piece of paper, and she knew that I'm going to Rome and I'm going to London and I'm coming to America. So she gave me information about hand of a cause Hugh Giagari, which I have no idea who he is and all that. Got Rome airport, somebody helped me to contact him, and I have a gut feeling he made a mistake, me with somebody else. There was this wonderful Baha'i in Africa by the name Dr. Ahdieh, and most likely Hugh Giagari thought I'm his son. So he was quite hospitable and nice to me. Otherwise, I think the man was too busy to really take care of me. So he offered, I go to their house and I stayed with them for a few days. And I went there. One cutest thing that happened, and I have repeated this many times. The first night, we had to have a spaghetti dinner. I'm a farmer from Naysan, never had spaghetti in my life. So I remember I had the fork. I keep picking up the spaghetti. Boom, by the time it get to my mouth, all the pieces is down there. This happened numerous times. Eventually, this tall, handsome man, he was quite good looking, and he was an Italian prince, came and stand behind me with one hand helping to hold the fork, with the other hand hold a spoon and trying to teach me how to eat a spaghetti. And it worked after 5, 6 tries. Believe me, since then, every time I love spaghetti, every time I go to Italian restaurant and I have a spaghetti, I remember Hugh Giagari and all that. So from then, I went to London. Oh, London was interesting. I get to airport, and they had these beautiful old-fashioned taxis. I don't know if you remember, there was a black, big, beautiful things with a light on the top. So I get one of them. In my poor English again, I told the driver, good hotel, trying to impress him. And he, of course, he take me to one of the fanciest hotel in London, in Piccadilly Square. A poor farmer is going to a hotel in Piccadilly. So I got there. All of a sudden, I see these 2 good-looking fellow in the red jacket. They run toward the car, and they open the back doors of the taxi. One grabbed my luggage, one grabbed my coat. I said, oh my God, they're going to steal my luggage. What am I going to do? No. So I was chasing them fast, walking to the lobby of the hotel. God, for the first time, I see chandelier and carpet and painting and this and that. So got to the receptionist and put my name down. She wants to keep my passport. Are you kidding? I was told under no circumstance I should give my passport to anybody. And I refused to give it to her. And she was laughing because, of course, we couldn't speak. So back and forth. Finally, I guess I was convinced, unless I give her my passport, they are not going to give. She gave me a room on 12th floor. Jesus Christ, 12th floor? In my life, I may have gone only to 2nd floor of any house on the steps. All of a sudden, I'm getting in this elevator. Was a glass type elevator. And I say, this gadget is keep going up. And I could see the lobby and the people are getting smaller and smaller as we are going up, 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 end up in 12th floor. Or meanwhile, one of those red jacket gentlemen, if he was in Iran, he would become prime minister. Because in Iran, they're always looking for somebody tall and good looking to appoint it. Forget about their quality. As long as they're tall and good looking, they become prime minister. So I got in the room. What the hell is this? Beautiful bed. I walk in the bathroom. what kind of bathroom is this? This must be kitchen. White bathtub, sink, and this and that. I had the phone number for a friend of mine from Iran. And again, I called him. His name was Behruz. I said, Behruz, John, it's heaven on earth. Come on over. There's a big bed. You can stay with me. So we had such a good time together those few days in London. We visited the resting place of Shoghi Effendi. We went all kind of places together. One thing I miss, Mr. Balyuzi was still alive. And I really wanted to see him. But then that period of time, he was sick, and he could not allow us to see him. $50 for a ticket to come to America and an ocean liner, a boat called Queen Mary. It was a huge ocean liner that was used during the war to bring American soldiers back and forth in the war against Hitler. Know that the particular Queen Mary is a hotel in Long Beach in California. I went and visited that and took some picture. I'm in the hotel. On the boat. We get together with the other passengers, have dinner, have lunch, and somehow I had difficulty figure out why there are so many knife and a spoon and fork and this and that. These British people, they have certain etiquette and all that. You don't use the fork, which is for salad, to eat your main dish. And I have to keep looking at the people, see what they do, what they eat, and of course they keep drinking free wine, which I don't think so I tried. I don't remember, did I try? My cabin mate, the guy who was staying with me, I wish I could remember his name. Later on, he became so famous. The one who had the TV program, Rich and Famous, he used to interview them.
Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous?
Say again, what was his name?
Robert Leach.
Oh, exactly, Robert Leach. Yeah, he was my dad. And he was a playboy. Good-looking British young man. And the girls always traveled together. So there was always two girls. So after dinner, he would grab me. We could hardly speak to each other because I didn't know English. He would find two girls. He'd pick up the pretty one, and he'd leave me alone with the other one, which was fine. But the trouble was that I had no idea of girlfriend, boyfriend, this and that. I was afraid if I touched them, they get pregnant. So I was very reluctant how I behaved myself there. But I remember on few occasions I squeezed her arm, just out of passion. And poor girl, I think she was Irish. This soft, nice skin. After a couple of days, we could see they were black and blue because I have squeezed her so hard there. So this is my first love in the Western world. End up in New York, went to YMCA on 34th Street, Lower Manhattan. $2.50 a night for the rent. $2.50, I never forget. After a couple of days, I'd keep telling people, I have to go to Washington to register and find a place to stay. And they keep telling me, Hussein, you have to go to Boston. No, Washington. Imagine what happened. I was accepted to Howard University, not Harvard, a black university in Washington, D.C., that I don't know for the life of me why they accepted me. Probably I was unique. A white boy is coming from other side of the world, and okay, if he's willing to pay the tuition, why not? And they sent me acceptance. So my son Bobby could not believe this has happened. Somehow I managed to find the acceptance letter from Howard University to show it to him, to prove. No, of course, it was a trauma. What I'm going to do now, I have a student visa, and unless I go to college and study, I would be kicked out. My biggest fear those days, first few years of my life in America, was few. First, I was poor because my family were not able to support me financially, so I have to work. It was against the law for me to work as a student because you are not supposed to work. So constantly were at the verge of being deported if they would catch me working. So I have to always find the jobs that could pay me cash or can somehow manage. I got variety of job. You folks save your money and buy a book called Foreigner. The book was published by George Ronald, and it's really a story of Persian Baha'is, their plight, why they left the country. Number of family I picked up, and I followed their story, including myself. So in that book, I describe all these things. No, I was what do you call these people who carry your luggage when you get in the hotel? A bellboy. I was a bellboy in one of the Manhattan hotel, and those days, these stupid luggages, they had no wheel, and they were so heavy, believe me, that after 2-3 days, they realized I cannot handle these huge luggages, so they fired me. Then I got the job in this factory. God, I'm going to cry. This is remembering all this. This factory, they were making paintbrush. Our job, with a whole bunch of other, was the brush come from one side, the handle come from other side, we'd pick up, boom, punch it together and drop it. Otherwise, this was my job. So you keep going, both sides. Have you seen Charlie Chaplin movies, Assembly Line? That's exactly what was happening to us. And if you don't catch them quick, it would go to a basket in front of you, and during your coffee break or lunch, you have to pick them up and finish the job. 2 weeks, got fired. I got fired for so many jobs because of my inability to really do it. Eventually, one more. Oh, that happened later. I found a dream job. I became a dishwasher. Somebody said that they go to Roma agency, give the agent $1, and he would send you a job for. I could, because I was going to school, I could not work full time necessarily. So I needed a job Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you would go to Roma agency, you sit there, you give $1 to the agent, and you sit there until the call comes from the restaurant, we need the additional dishwasher. So he would give me the address, and I go there and do my work. This lasted for a while. Then of course, because I was so clever and good looking, I became a busboy, promotion. Then later on, my dream come really true. I became a waiter. During my dishwashing days, I had a good life because at least I get all the foods I wanted. Now, food was no problem at those days. May God forgive me. Sometime when the people would not finish, filet mignon and sirloin steak was popular those days. This vegetarian business came later. So people would order a piece of filet mignon and they never finish it. They only eat a piece. I would pick the filet mignon, wrap it up in napkins, go to the bathroom, and sit down there and eat that piece of meat. It was so delicious. I loved it, really. On and on. I found a college to go in New Jersey. I rented a room not far from university for $10 a week. Oh, when I was in New York, something cute happened. I had to leave someplace. I forgot the whole thing. I had to go to college to study English. I had the acceptance by the college called St. Michael's College in Vermont, Burlington. So I went there to study. It was freezing cold. It was, I think, sometime February or March. I don't know when it was exactly. And I was so lonely. I missed my family. The food was not that good. And there was one other Persian boy there. And I remember I was so lonely that I often would hold his hand when we were walking around. I was so close to him that one day the dean of university called me and he told me, I've been in your country and I know that you folks are very touchy, you are very friendly. I used to kiss him in the mouth. I love him. And you hold hand, but here when you do this, it's a small town, people get the wrong idea. Those days being gay and gay marriage and all that was a no-no, especially in a small town in Vermont. I finished St. Michael's College. I came back to New York, as I said. I rent a room on 76th Street Are you interested to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I rent a room for $7 a week, $1 a night. The place was full of prostitutes, addicts, and now that particular building, I often pass by that building. It's such a, I have such an affection. And actually, it's not far from the hotel that Abdul Baha stayed when he arrived in America. He stayed on 72nd Street in a fancy hotel. What's the name of it? Doesn't matter. And I stay on 76. So I see both hotels. No. I did not have sometimes that $7 to pay for the rent. And what they would do to me, they would put a broken key inside the lock. So I could not get in my room. No, I come back from my dishwashing job, let's say. I want to get in my room and the door is locked because I have not paid the price. So on a number of occasions, those of you who are in New York, they know what I'm talking about. 76th Street and Broadway, they have is a middle island. And on the middle island, there are some benches. Believe me, at least on 4 or 5 occasions, I end up to sleep on those benches overnight. If only my mother would find out that this happened to her favorite son. He comes to America to become nuclear engineering, follow the example of Einstein. No, he's living with a bunch of prostitutes, sleeping on a bench on Broadway on 76th Street. That was not necessarily the dream that I had when I came here. But okay, I'm moving fast. 1963. By now I have some friends, Persian mostly. They told me there is a big thing happening in Washington. A guy by name Martin Luther King is going to give a talk and people are going there. Why don't we go there and see what's going on? So out of curiosity, the few of us got in the car and we drove to Washington. My God, what a pleasure it was. Masses of people all over the place. What a joy and excitement. And of course, by now I could understand what he was talking about. Dreaming that one day in my own country, there would be a movement like this. They would change the whole situation. There would be more democratic government and things like this. So that was my first encounter with the black community, which registered very nicely. I went to a school in New Jersey called Fallahi Dickinson, which actually they have a good basketball team, and they're doing pretty good there. Came back in New York, or New Jersey, suffer, survive, until an angel came along. This woman by name Tahira. Have you met Tahira, my wife?
Of course.
A good-looking woman, a doctor. They have given her a green card. Those days there was a shortage of doctors in America. Comes here and she fell in love with me. How this is unbelievable, really. So she married me. Okay, that was the beginning of a good life. God bless America. Okay, and then of course, because she was so committed and so dedicated to Baha'i faith, she's quite an interesting woman. I got more and more involved in the Baha'i activity. Within a year or so, I was elected to local assembly of New York. I became the treasurer of assembly. For 20 years, I served in the local assembly of New York.
Just New York?
Baha'i community in those days was very dynamic. Many Persians, this was actually before the revolution. So these folks who are coming to America, they were not necessarily coming here because they were kicked out or they're persecuted. They came because they want to have a better life. So there was, and New York is an ideal place for the newcomer, for the immigrant, because it provides public transportation, there are job opportunity, and there is a other member of your countryman, that countrywoman, that they can interact. So we had a large number of Persians who were there. There were a group of American Baha'i who they were probably remember the time of the Guardian, and they were involved in 10-year crusades, and they were involved in teaching. So it was quite a dynamic community. And I helped A few years later, I helped to buy Baha'i Center. It's a beautiful center that we have on 11th Street. And how that came about was interesting. That building belonged to a publishing company called Evergreen Publishing Company. A Jewish guy owned the company, a smart fellow. I met him a number of times because I was involved as a treasurer of New York Assembly to negotiate the price and make a deal. He decided to publish a book called Lady Chartered Lover, which is written by a British author. And there are few sexy scenes in the book. And those days, this was a no-no. They would not allow anything to be published, and the post office would not even allow you to mail a book like this. So being a liberal, being a Jewish, and believing in a free expression, and having money, he took the case all the way to Supreme Court. It took a number of years. And for the first time, Supreme Court gave the okay, and that was really good and bad. It opened the floodgate for all this pornography and all these sex scenes and all that because of that decision. So this man became, all of a sudden became a millionaire, and his company, publishing company, became a major avant-garde company, publisher house. So he was looking for a larger space to move. So he sold us this Baha'i Center for $250,000. We really, struggled. Those Persians, I told you, this time they came through. The good amount of contribution toward the purchase of Baha'i Center came from those immigrants. That building now is worth anywhere between $15 to $20 million that we have.
Were there any other Baha'is there in New York? Like you were saying, some of them were part of the 10-year crusade, or were there any other Baha'is that you remember that you knew well that were?
What I remember mostly, because I married a doctor, so I could afford to buy a house. So our house was really a place for lots of guests who come from overseas to stay with us. Many of the hand of a cause, many of the members of the House of Justice, they would stay with us. I think all of them, with the exception of Ruhi Khanum, who always wanted to stay in the hotel with the Violette. The rest of them, we had a nice room that belonged to Bobby. Every time we had a hand of a cause or others, Bobby had to move to his sister's room, and we give the Bobby's room to one of these. So his bed was very holy. That I have lots of stories of these good folks to be with us. I spent many hours and days with Ruhi Khanum. When I was writing the book about her biography, as I'm writing and I'm coming with the stories and things like this, she was right in front of my eye. Really, I could see when we took her to meet with the Secretary General of United Nations, when I arranged a large gathering for the Baha'is to meet her. 2,000 people were in that conference. And I decided I'm going to introduce her. I asked Bora Kaplan for some information, was a member of the House. I got a bunch of information, I asked other. So I began to talk about Ruhi Khanum for almost 10 minutes. Who she is, who was her father, who was her mother, who was this and that. And I could see at some point that she's getting very impatient. She was quite a character. I don't know how many of you know. So before even I finished the introduction, she got up, came on the stage. She didn't push me aside, got behind the microphone, and she said, "Only thing that Hussein did not tell you, the name of my elementary school teacher. If you want, I can tell you." And he also did not mention the name of one of our people who worked for us while we were in Montreal, and things like this. That otherwise, you went into too much detail. I'm walking with her in the street of Manhattan. It was raining, and there was a puddle of water on some corner. I tried to be a gentleman, so I extend my arm to hold her arm to cross. She pushed me on the side. He said, "Where were you when I was in Africa?" Really, that's the time I needed help doing, or Papua New Guinea, you know that, and other places. A magnificent woman, really, this register. Mr. Furutan, another favorite of mine. Collis Featherstone, Mr. Samandri, toward the end of his life, was in New York, and there are pictures I have. I have a little vanity. I love pictures, so I used to take lots of pictures with them, and I have all these pictures with these big shots in the website called nayris.org. You could enjoy.
Do you have any stories with any of them that you haven't put in your book Foreigner or on the book?
I tell you some story about Mr. Furutan.
Yeah.
Okay. Aren't you tired?
No. And also, I'm purposely keeping quiet so that I don't. I'm trying not to kind of like say so it doesn't come on. So I'm sorry if it's not encouraging, but
I was 11 years old. Going back.
Yeah. Start again.
I was 11 years old. There was a school in Tehran. Sorry, at this point, we were living in Abadan, that port city I mentioned. National Assembly of Baha'is of Iran has opened a school for the children who were orphans, their parents have died, for the children that their parents have gone international pioneering, for the abused children that the National Assembly regard is good taken. Somehow, I think because my father was close friend of Mr. Furutan, which at that time, he was the Secretary of National Assembly of Iran, they got me in that school. I hated that school. Too much Baha'i things. You have to be good 24 hours. You have to behave. You have to read Baha'i books. And it was a funny part was that if you misbehave, there were two punishments. Either following morning, no breakfast, or you have to memorize the prayer. And next day, when you get together, you stand up and you recite that prayer, and then they allow you to have breakfast. Believe me, in that time I was there, probably memorized at least 200 prayers. Seriously, I know. Nowadays, when somebody chanted the prayer, I can easily follow their chanting, because those days of my suffering in the hand of those people. I hated that school because of really this. I was a free bird, and I grew up kind of spoiled also. All of a sudden I'm in atmosphere that I have to be good, I have to behave. At a certain time I have to go sleep. I have to attend a whole bunch of prayer sessions and things like this. And I constantly begged my parents, please take me out of this place, and they refused. So I give you another secret. This is not in the book because I thought it's not nice. I wrote a long letter to my parents. At this time, I went to extreme. I accused this poor director of a school, was a woman, that she has sexual diseases. Can you imagine? 11 years old kids accused the poor old woman. I wrote how can you allow your favorite son to be in such a setting that the school director has gonorrhea, has sexual. It's a Friday, post office is closed. So I have to hide the letter someplace that they wait until following day or 2 days later so I can mail it. I went to National Baha'i Center because Mr. Furutan happened to use me as office boy. I was familiar. I went and hid the letter in a tree. The gardener found the tree and gave the letter to Mr. Furutan. So 2-3 days later, I walked in, jolly and happy. I'm going to see Mr. Furutan. He was a huge desk, very prominent figure. He got up, he approached me. Can I do something?
Yeah.
He came close to me, hold my ear, and this is the way they punish kids in Persia. They twist their ears so hard. Hussein, what is this letter? Why you say this thing about this poor lady? Oh my God, I realize he has read the letter. Oh, believe me, I wish the earth would open and I could go under it. I was so ashamed of myself and so embarrassed. Okay, one more story about those days, then I stop. Uh,
I'm going to ask you some personal questions as
well,
well.
there was, again, I was a part of the National Center's crew. At the middle of National Baha'i Center, there was this beautiful pond with fish in it and all that, decorating pond, but was quite big. It's a hot summer, and I'm hot. Water looks beautiful. Why not jumping? I took my clothes off. Of course, I kept my underwear and jumped in the pool. First time probably in the history of Nash, they went and told Mr. Furutan, Hussein is in the pool. So he ran out of the office. He came. I never forget that. He's trying to get me out of the pool, but I'm afraid he may twist my ear again. So I run in the other side of the pool. He come there. I run the other side. So this scene, we went back and forth with later on when he came to America and he stayed with us, he said, Hussein, you aged me. Those years that I was with you, you were with us and all that. Oh, he was such a sweetheart. He was, and on and on. I have so much nice things. Collis Featherstone, your fellow countryman, he stayed with us. And he had such a great sense of humor. I have stories about him. Mr. Samandari was more subdued. He was too serious. And I had a special feeling about him. I don't know. Okay.
What were you going to say?
Mr. Samandari, you were driving from Greenacre or something?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And also Mr. Furutan.
Yeah. Two things happened with these two handover cars. With Mr. Samandari, I'm driving, and I drive too fast, which I should not. Mr. Samandari is sitting in the back, and this friend of mine, Dr. Taraz, is sitting next to me. He said, Hussein, don't drive so fast. You're going to kill the handover cars. So Mr. Samandari said, Hussein John, drive as fast as you want. If God doesn't want me, nothing would happen to me. He has such a faith that is all in his hand. We are driving Mr. Furutan someplace, and I have a tendency of, even right now, try to tell the stories and have a good time and laugh and all that. So he and his wife is sitting in the back seat. Again, Dr. Taraz is sitting next to me. And I start to tell some stories as I'm driving. And Mr. Furutan started to laugh in one of my stories, which I'm not going to tell you which story. It's too fresh. And he laughed so hard that he could not breathe. Suddenly his wife said, Hushman, Dr. Taraz, stop the car, Furutan is dying. So can you imagine if the handover cars would die in the back seat of the car? The responsibility, I go to hell for sure. Actually, I'm very grateful to be a Baha'i. Because most likely, even if I would not have left, if I would have left my village and come to America, because many Persians come to America. First, I think I would go after money. Why not? So, and I'm sure I would be very rich, because all my effort and time that historically I put down in serving in New York Assembly, traveling, conferences, if I would have concentrated this as a non-Baha'i in some kind of my business life or professional life, I would be quite a success. But then at what cost? Really, I look back now and I see that the life has been very good to me. Family-wise, friend-wise, people who I associate with, they are the best and the brightest that one can find. And this, I have found them in the Baha'i community. I've been, I have a doctorate degree in education. I have run schools. Oh, one more story. Good thing I remember. Okay, late 60s, I'm in Greenacre Baha'i School. A black couple come because I'm lecturing and talking about actually Dawnbreaker. Ed Carpenter and his wife, Ann Carpenter. It doesn't mean much to you, but they were quite a figure those days. Since you ask who were in New York, they were actually New Jersey Baha'is. And Ed Carpenter was the most dynamic black person you could come across. And he would come to my talks on Dawnbreakers and early Figure of Faith, and he was so excited about the whole thing. So second or third day of his being in Greenacre, he said, Hussein, they have asked me to organize a group of people to open a school in Harlem, mostly for the black and Spanish dropouts. And National Urban League and Whitney Young, at that time Whitney Young was the director, one of the great black leaders, and the Manhattanville College, a Catholic school, and number of Harlem community leaders, they are behind that. Eugene Callender, who was the head of the 100 Black Men, they are behind this project. Would you like to participate in such a project? Of course, no. Remember 1963, for the first time I was exposed to the black community, and I got so excited about them. And throughout that period, I was thinking, the similarity with the plight of black people and Babis and Baha'is. There is such amazing, especially with Babis. When you think of the lynching of the black people in this country, it's so similar to what they were doing to the poor Baha'is in town and villages. When you think of treating these people as a second and third class citizen, deprive them from decent education, deprive them from decent employment, this was also similar thing that happened to Babis and Baha'is. So it was in my blood, my DNA, to be sympathetic and affiliated with this minority. So this opportunity that Ed Carpenter, this black man I told you, it was a heaven on earth. Right away I jumped on a picture. We helped to open a school called Harlem Preparatory School, became one of the most famous alternative schools in the world. Millions of dollars start to pour in from foundation, Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Chase Foundation. Everyone wanted to jump in because there was something successful was going on at the middle of Harlem. And the trust of the program was as such. We would tell the kids that regardless of your age, regardless how far you have gone in the school, you come to us for 1 year. We would give you all the support that you need. Tutorial, financial, health-wise, residential, find a place for you, because we had money. I told you, millions of dollars coming. In 1 year, we will place you in any colleges that you want to go. At the beginning, these colleges accept our word that this particular kid is ready for college. So they begin to accept them. We started almost 50 students, and the school got bigger and bigger. 700 kids we had at some point. It almost became impossible to raise. We needed $8 million a year just to make the payroll and pay the expenses. So most of my job and the job of Ed Carpenter, instead of focusing and concentrating on education, was to spend fundraising. All this luncheon, I had so many luncheon with some of this cooperation and rich individual and this and that. I remember there was a very fancy gathering in some rich couple in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And I look around, I say, Jesus Christ, the CEO of Exxon is sitting in that corner. The chairman of the board of Coca-Cola is sitting there. These were all the supporters of schools. And within that night, they raised $700,000 contribution toward the school. But then it became as such that most this foundation, they don't have this policy of perpetually supporting any program. At some point, they give you what they call a seed money, supporting money, but they want to move on to something else. So we had the choice of either close the school, because it was not that easy to raise almost $10 million a year, or the Board of Education of City New York was anxious to have the school as one of their high schools. So we consulted with the faculty. Most of them, they needed a job. because if you close, they'll be out of job. If they join the Board of Ed, they become full-time teacher and all that. So many of them became teacher and all that. Ed Carpenter left, and he became professor of the City College of New York School of Education. I left, and I became associate dean of Fordham University, which is Jesuit school in New York, a very successful program there, university. What else I can remember from those days?
How long did it go for? It was called
Yeah, it was from late 60s to almost 80, 10, 12 years. I also wrote a book called, what is it called? I'm getting old. Yeah, a way out of no way is an old expression that we made scholars out of these kids, and many of them become successful doctors. Oh, one more story, then I stop. I need a break. I'm coming back from Chicago. I was a delegate to National Convention, Baha'i National. When I'm in the plane, I pray that the middle seat stay empty. And I always get the aisle seat. So I keep my eyes at the door, and I'm hoping that please close the door, please close the door. So almost they close the door, but suddenly this woman walked in, and there were lots of other seats. I don't know why the hell she wanted to sit next to me. She came and sat right at the middle seat, black woman. She turned to me and she said, Dr. Ahdieh, do you remember me? What do you say to a woman that you don't remember? You have to make up something. I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting old. I wasn't that old that time. And I don't remember. Who are you? He said, I was one of your students. Oh, how are you, honey? What year? This and that. What are you doing? This is what happened. She got her MD, PhD. This black girl who was a high school dropout, and she has given up on herself and others. MD, PhD, and she is the Commissioner of Public Health for the state of Illinois. How can you beat that? And I heard so many stories like this. Some of our former students, they have, Tatiana knows some of them, they get together for a reunion. Sometimes I meet them. I say, my goodness, these are the kids that I remember I interviewed them. They were so lost. Malcolm X died, and his successor in New York was Minister Farrakhan, who was also a troublesome. He was too wide, really. But at the same time, he had this desire to make the best for the black people in Harlem. He was one of the biggest supporters of a school and protector of a school. The word is out that you keep the drugs and you keep guns out of Harlem Prep. Otherwise, the folks for black Muslim community would come after you. This was for all this 10, 12 years when the whole city of New York was falling apart and there was so much crisis in the high school. Not a single major incident happened in my school. My math teacher ran to my office. What was his name? Oh, doesn't matter. I said, Dr. Ahdieh, there is a guy walking on the first floor, because we had two floors of school, with a gun in his hand and acting strange. So I have to get involved. So I went upstairs. Yes, I see a guy, kind of big guy with a gun walking. So I have to get involved. I'm a school director. There's no way I can get. So I went and asked him, what can I do for you? Of course, his answer was not nice. I'm not going to repeat. But he did use the word F. Who are you? I said, I'm a school director. And he again came up with another nasty remark. So then I asked him, what do you want? He said, I'm looking for, gave me a name of one of my students. He said, what do you want from him? He said, I want to kill him. Why you want to kill him? He said, he owed me $20. and he didn't give it to me. I want to kill him. No, what do you tell the crazy nut with a gun in his hand for $20? I said, listen, fellow, why don't you wait until 3 o'clock and kill him outside? So don't get me involved. He laughed. He said, I told you you're no wife character. So that really break the ice. And most likely I gave him the $20, so I didn't, he changed his mind of killing these poor kids. Many of these things happen. I'm sitting in my office. I asked May Morgan, who was a wonderful guidance counselor, whatever happened to Debbie? Debbie was a cute black girl, very smart, very smart. Oh, she said she got pregnant. You know, it was very awful thing was happening. It still is happening, especially in black community, that many of these girls easily get pregnant without auto marriage and all that. They have children. So at some point I told May that if you ever get hold of Debbie and has a baby, please tell him I want to see her. So one day I'm sitting in my office, Debbie comes in with a little child in her arm with another woman with her. So we got in conversation. So I asked Debbie, I really think you should come back to school. You finish your degree and you can even do a better job with your child and all that. But the question is that I don't think so we can help you to take care of your kids. Do you have anybody that can do that if you come back to school? You say, yes, my mother. The other young woman sitting next to her was her mother, and she was 28 years old, the mother. Debbie was 14 years old. Can you imagine the tragedy? 3 generations right in front of me, and is that. We did help Debbie, and I think she went to college and all that. They did a major study. I think I'm talking too much. Major study about the success and failure of Harlem Prep. It was published by some consulting firm. And they follow up on our student in college, how many went there, how many stayed there, how they do their studies, what degrees they receive, and things like this. It was such a wonderful report when it came out. Actually, it helped our fundraising, because we had a solid piece of evidence that the program and the project is working. I really think that luck has been my best asset that I had in my life. The marriage to Tahira, the ability to meet with Ed Carpenter and get involved in Harlem Prep. And I think also the blood of the martyrs, seriously, I believe in that. That many of my family members historically gave their life, hundreds of them, from the time of the Bab and Baha'u'llah and all that. So I have a gut feeling that the faith is part of my DNA. I mean, it's whatever I do, whatever I think, whatever plan I have, it somehow circulate around the faith. I have a choice during Christmas and Thanksgiving to take the family, I could afford it easily, to any fancy places and enjoy the thing. But I end up going to Baha'i conferences, long drive and things like this. I had the choice of, instead of sitting in the sometimes boring assembly meetings and some gathering, but I go there with such a pleasure, still at the old age, that I know I should be jaded with this kind of activity, but still I get excited. One thing, a few things, as I said, is a milestone in my personal and professional life. Good things happen automatically. It's just a woman is willing to marry me for no reason. A black man wants me to get involved in a major educational enterprise that actually put me on the map. I'm a well-known educator. I'm an expert in the alternative school and charter school. And I could make thousands of dollars if I really want to pursue in that field. The other luck I had, again, that's happened coincidentally, was meeting people like Tatiana Jordan or Hilary Chapman. And for last 15 to 20 years, all of a sudden it has given me another plan of life. Never in my life I thought that in my younger days I'd be a writer. I don't even have patience to write one letter or one email, to sit down and read and research and collect the stuff, and just then by luck, coincidentally, very casually meeting this young lady at the Baha'i Center, Hilary Chapman, the grandson of Leroy Ivas, be available to help and form a nucleus, a group, and we've been publishing one book after another, and all been successful. People, writers are dying to find a publisher. But somehow, because it's a joy to do it, and because I think it's a combination of my imagination and Hilary Chapman writing ability and Tatiana research, most our book is published by all the Baha'i Publishing Company, either Baha'i Publishing Trust in America, George Ronald in England, NSA of Malaysia, NSA of Russia, that they are willing to publish our book. So I'm very blessed, really. And I don't have a boring moment in my life. And sometimes I think I look for, because of my agitation and my hyper personality, I look for things, if things. That's why it surprised me that I have lasted last few days in this program. I never thought I'd be able to sit the whole day and to listen to a stuff which I already know. This is really, I know this stuff by heart, everything he was saying now. I try to stay quiet so I doesn't interfere with the reading and Chad Jones' presentation. But I had a lot to say about every of these things. But I sat there like a flower pot and listened to all this presentation. So these are all blessings, and I'm very grateful, really.
One more blessing.
Go ahead.
Where your name come from?
My father's name, my grandparents must be crazy, because they named their son, which happened to be my father, Baha'i. Why you do something like this to a poor child? In that bloody country, name your son Baha'i, I think you belong to mental institute. You right away subject him to all kind of persecution and all that. So throughout his life, poor guy suffered, because whenever he applied for a job, whenever he was introduced, what's your name? Baha'i. Right away, is marked as a undesirable. So when I was born, he didn't want to take any chances. He gave me a good Muslim name, Hussein. You cannot go any more than that. The grandson of Prophet Muhammad, and that's all. But again, with my luck, I come to America. Where do I go? I go to New York City, full of Jews. They don't like Saddam Hussein. They don't like King Hussein. They don't like the Arab that much. So every time I have to excuse myself and claim that, believe me, first of all, I'm not the Arab. I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Persian. I'm a Baha'i. So it was an incident, was cute. Tatiana always make it up. I am in the hospital to do a cataract procedure. Before you do they put you to sleep to do the final thing. They give you injection that make you a little mellow. Just go through that. As I'm in that transition, this guy came and he said, Hussein, Salaam alaikum. I'm Dr. Goldberg. I said, Jesus Christ, this is a Jewish doctor, Salaam alaikum, put me to sleep. All he has to do, just give me extra shots of whatever, and that's the end of me. So I suddenly come, I'm a Baha'i. Okay, so throughout with my name, I have to justify. I'm in Atlanta airport, right after 9/11. trying to catch a plane to go back to New York. This black guy who is a part of security guard, look at my look at my driver license, look at my ticket. And he said, Brother Hussein? Why you call me Brother Hussein? You must be a Muslim. Salam alaikum. Okay, salam alaikum. Then he looked again, he said, Brother Hussein, if I were you, I would change my name. It was such a sweet, innocent statement. I asked him, what shall I call myself? He said, how about Henry? He made it up. Do you know, since then I became Henry? Often when I introduce myself to some American friends, which I don't want to go through the whole explanation, Hussein, son of Baha'i, I come from Iran. Oh, how you like America? How long you been here? Oh, you speak a good English. Do you like American food? And they always ask me this series of questions whenever I'm invited to a Thanksgiving dinner and my early days in America. This young woman, she was not that pretty. She likes me. So she talked to her parents, and I went to their house for Thanksgiving dinner. There's a tradition in that crazy culture of mine called ta'aruf, that when somebody offers you something, you don't accept it right away. It's a second offer and a third offer. Now, we are all sitting in the living room. Her mother said, they called me Jimmy at that time. They said, Jimmy, please join us for a turkey dinner. I said, no, thank you, I'm not hungry. Of course, typical decent American, you're not hungry? I said, okay, so don't. Okay, then we can watch the TV program while we have our dinner. I'm starving, and I'm watching them, they're eating this stupid bird, the turkey, with all these wonderful things on the table. And I'm sitting there, I keep looking, and I remember there was a jar full of nuts. I keep eating these nuts. So I learned my lesson, never ta'aruf again. You right away, you accept the word. You often probably see in those who speak Persian, they know, often they said ahd and misaq, means the covenant and covenant. It's usually in Persian language, when you want to stress something, you double on the words. So historically in that country, people had no last name. You would recognize, you would introduce yourself, I am Hussein, son of Ali, brother of Abu Bakr, with the uncle of the big nose. Then you have described the physical person from the district of so-and-so. Then they know who you are. Now, in 1930s, or maybe 20s, instruction came from central government that everyone should pick up a last name. The Muslim, of course, non-Baha'is would pick up some cute name and all that. But then Baha'is try to be as spiritual as possible. So they pick up Rohani, a spiritual one. Ahdieh, the covenant. Misaqi, Naraqis, and this and that. They're all supposed to have some meaning. And some of them, they even wrote to Abdul Baha, poor Abdul Baha, that what shall we pick up as the last name? And Abdul Baha would suggest some last name for them. So that's why the name Ahdieh came from. The Hussein was rejection of name Baha'i, and Ahdieh was because it has a beautiful name in Baha'i literature.
Can you just tell me a little bit more about your father?
My father was a very humble man. He was a failure. He was very talented, but he married wrong. And by married wrong, in Naysan, and like every place else, and even among Baha'i community, there are class of educated people, learned people, and then there are those who have wealth. So he was young when he married. Most likely his parents thought if he married to a rich family, his life would be set, not realizing that his way of life is learning teaching and this and that. And the ways of my mother was a very simple, traditional, old-fashioned motherhood. So I don't think so they had necessarily a very happy marriage. I never witnessed any kind of a necessarily a touching or compassionate relation. I'm sure they respect and they love each other. They have a number of children together and all that. But I think that because he had so many kids, one after another, he never had the opportunity to really pursue serious education. So he was a lower middle class in that country, trying to survive, trying to support his family. And I don't think so he was a very happy man.
But he was, you were telling me a story how he was praying constantly for you.
Yeah, this was amazingly committed Baha'i, believing in the power of prayer. Often you would see him on the corner of our house in a deep session of prayer. It happened in a number of occasions. I would come home from somewhere 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I greet my father, who's sitting in a corner and praying. And after that, I eat something quick and I go to sleep. 2, 3 hours later, I wake up to go to the bathroom or do something. I see, my God, he's still sitting in a corner and he's still praying. You know, it's the limit. So sometimes I would ask him, Dad, why are you praying so much? And his answer was sweet, very sweet. I remember his face. He said, I'm praying for you. And I really think, you know, that I mentioned this, that it was the blood of those martyrs, my ancestor, and praying on my father, who keep my sanity. I have come so often to the edge, financially, educationally. Oh, no, I don't want to go in detail. That I could have easily fall down and kaput, finish. But I have a feeling that those prayers and the blood of the martyrs, which is in our system, has saved me. I told you I have a wonderful wife. Many people are surprised how our marriage has survived all these years. And I think it's a faith, number one. Number two is her patience and tolerance. She had this idea that in our life, and especially the life of the kids, you know, Bobby and Linda, my children, you have to introduce some rhythm of the faith. You would take your kids and yourself regularly to feast. You make sure the kid will notice that you are contributing. You have the picture of Abdul Baha on the wall. You have Baha'i books around them. You live the life. I always remember one time the phone rang and Bobby, my son, answered the phone. And the call was for me. I told Bobby, tell him I'm not home. Can you imagine, tell a poor kid to lie right in front of your eyes that you're not home? My God, it was such a tragedy in the household, crisis between me and my wife and the kids. How can you teach a lesson like this? Why did you tell the kid to lie and tell the guy on the phone that you're not home when you're here? That was one incident I remember. The other incident was she was going to work, and I had those days copying was expensive and didn't have access to copy machine. But in the hospital that she was practicing medicine, they had access. So I gave her some statement. I said, do you mind to copy this for me? You should see the look she gave me, as though I'm committing a crime. She said, you want me to use the hospital copy machine to copy this for you? For me, it was nothing. I mean, just a copy, for God's sake, copy and get it over. But no, these are the example that I'm saying that she was using. So what happened to my children now? No, just a lesson. I have a feeling because of what she was doing, and because I was not opposing it, I was going along. Even though Bobby, for example, is a top-notch dean of law schools and all that, but he has such a sincere belief. He never missed his daily prayer. How many people done that? They would say his daily prayer. Before he goes and run a major law school, he say his daily prayer. I'm sure it's the training that he got from his mother. So these are the kind of things that I'm saying that the faith has helped his family to stay together, and is really advice to the others also. Shoghi Effendi did not include the full picture of what happened in Naysan, because as it is, you know how big Dawnbreaker is. If he had to include this second and third, the second upheaval, especially of Naysan, it would be another 40, 50 pages. So, as I mentioned we were not there, how I came across, maybe I should repeat.
Yeah.
Wahid came to Naysan. My ancestor became Bobby, Mullah Abdul Hussein. He had a grandson. He lost 5 of his children, all boys who died. One of his grandchildren was named Mullah Muhammad Shafi, who was 14 years old when Wahid came. Later on, when he got older, probably we don't know exactly when, he went to Baghdad. He and a friend of his on the donkey, riding a donkey, they went to Baghdad. They visited Baha'u'llah. At that point, he was known as Janab Baha. And most likely, at that point, Janab Baha asked him, I'm just making it up now, that do you remember the coming of Wahid to your village? And do you remember what happened after he was killed and all those Babis were put to death? And the second upheaval started shortly and all that. I'm sure he said yes, because he was a bright boy. So Baha'u'llah encouraged him to write his diary. And he has written his diary because Mr. Samandari and a couple other old-timers from his time, from Abdullah's time, remember seeing such a diary. But it has disappeared. Nobody knew where it is and what happened to it and all that. Most likely Shoghi Effendi and Nabil had access to that diary, because Nabil mentioned, if you want more information about Naysan's upheaval, go and read the diary of Mullah Muhammad Shafi. Where is this diary? The family, the Baha'is, the scholars, they've been searching for this diary for years. I'm in Chicago. There's a big Persian conference. I attend the Persian gathering. Then I was told that there is also English session on the second floor of Hilton Hotel, I think it was. Hilton, or what was the other hotel? They had a conference, doesn't matter. I went to the second floor and I walked in the hall. There was maybe 40, 50 English-speaking people sitting there. And on the screen, I see it said translation of the diary of Mullah Muhammad Shafi of Naysan. Can you imagine? What a miracle. A fellow by the name Ahang Rabbani, you may have heard his name. He had access to a bunch of material, including this. I don't know how he got hold of it. There is all kind of information how he had it. So I got hold of that diary eventually, because he has sent a copy to the house, the house sent it to me. And I used that diary with the help of Tatiana and Hilary Chapman, to write the Book of Awakening. The Book of Awakening, the first part, of course, deal with the coming of Wahid, but the bulk of the book deal with the second upheaval, which was much bloodier. Many more Babis were involved. At the end of the battles of war, there were 700 women prisoners that were captured. There were hundreds men who were killed, and they cut their head, and they carried their head on the spears from town to town. So this is the story behind the book Awakening and what happened in Naysan 1853. Wahid being there, and Wahid himself, peerless Wahid. Wahid is the most significant person who became Babi. I mean, we have Mullah Hussein, we have Quddus, but these are wonderful spiritual people and all that. But Wahid, according to non-Baha'i historian, was one of the leading scholars and mullahs of Persia. Abdul Baha had testified that he knew over 30,000 hadiths or tradition of Islam. You know, this is not just a quick story of that. He must have been very bright. He was from a very distinguished family. Actually, his father met Bab in Mecca during their pilgrimage, and Bab told him about his cause, but he never accepted. And Wahid met with him and tried to also convince him. He had a high position his father had. So the episode of Naysan, because of the station of the Wahid, because of the number of the people who gave their life, because of the cruelty, really, when you compare how ingenious these idiots were in the way they tortured the Babis. They were doing amazing, I don't know, how they figure out how to hurt somebody. You know, put a string through their nose. In many occasions, they would put them in the front of the cannon, and then boom, they blew up the cannon so the body would be turned to pieces all over the place, on and on and on. And what they do to the woman, what they do to the children. So this has really impacted Shoghi Effendi. And he, throughout his life, he tried to encourage and try to help to build the Naysan Baha'i community. He would send scholars to come and live there and try to deepen people. He would ask the business people to come and start a business in that area. I remember as a child, a man came from a city of Yazd and opened this, what they call it, this...
Aqueduct?
Huh?
Aqueduct?
No, you make the
Carpet?
Carpet? Make the carpet or make the curtain. And remember, the thing goes back and forth.
Yeah.
The machine is
Sewing
making
machine, but like the
huge sewing machine and
industrial.
thing like this. Yeah, he opened that and provided the job for 200-300 people in that town. During Shoghi Effendi's time, there was a major flood that destroyed half the city. He sent an announcement to the Baha'i world, Shoghi Effendi did, that the Baha'is of Naysan are in trouble. All their homes have been destroyed. Please help. They said thousands of dollars start to come. I did some work on the Abdul Baha'i in New York, so I had the access to the archive of New York Assembly. And it's so funny, I found out that New York Assembly sent $500 for the flood victim of Naysan. I was told that my grandfather, that Baha'i's father, he was in charge of distribution of the money among the people to build their house. And he said on the corner of one of the rooms, there were this huge container of mostly coins, gold coins, silver coin, that the people would come, express their needs, and he would give them or help. They really rebuilt the city. And this was again Shoghi Effendi's contribution, and on and on. But Tabarsi was impressive and significant because of the Quddus and Mullah Hussein, a number of letter of living, because 6-7 of them actually, they died in Tabarsi. But then Naysan, in terms of numbers, in terms of duration, in terms of what Babis did in defense of their life, because I want to let you know that the Babis were not necessarily good boys either, you know, that they were still believe in the tradition of Islam and Shia, that the Qa'im has come. One of the things that about the coming of the Qa'im was that there would be blood all over the place. So the blood was not just Babis blood, was also some Muslim blood. So there were many of them also were put to death in the battlefield and all that. But of course, it was Baha'u'llah that changed the whole attitude. Actually, that most famous, one of the most famous tablet of Baha'u'llah is Tablet of Ayyub, Tablet of Patience, that was revealed for one of the Nayrizis, Haji Muhammad Taqi. And it was in that tablet that was revealed and released on the first day of Rizwan, when he declared himself that he announced that the sword is going back to what they call when you
Sheath.
yeah, and he said it's the end of using the sword, and it's a time for the reason, for the conversation instead of using the sword to prove your point.
So do you have any last words of advice or anything for young Baha'is today?
Yeah, go to bed early and get some rest and get ready for next day. Not really. I mean, the young Baha'is these days, at least I know of what's happening right now in New York City. There is a group of young Baha'is, 40, 50 of them. It's unbelievable. I go to Baha'i Center and I see all this, and they're also good looking because they are a mixture of Persian American, lots of them. They are sitting around, and they're so committed, and they see Jafar remind me of these good looking American Baha'is. And so young people they are in the vanguard, they are in forefront of teaching, and God bless them.